Hey YouTube, my name's RJ. I have a 2004 M3. Today we're bringing it all the way up to 2021 with an Avant 4 head unit. I'm going to walk you through kind of the process from start to finish and show you some tips along the way that I've learned. I hope you enjoy, and yeah, let's get to it. So first thing I want to do is go over what we'll be installing on my particular car and kind of go through some details with the head unit itself and other pieces that I have that I will be installing and kind of why they're important to the install in general. So first thing, the Avant 4 head unit will be going in. This in particular is the PX6. So this has a 6-core processor, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 internal memory with the DSP chipset. So it should help with the audio system. I do have the Harman Kardon system in my car, so this will allow a 15 EQ band adjustment, I believe. So I will definitely give all the details regarding that in my review in my next video. But yeah, so I'm excited. I particularly like this one because it has kind of a factory look to it. I love buttons in particular. They do have another model on their website that is just a touch screen. And I think that is definitely more of like a modern car, but I do like this in particular. It has a mix of buttons and like I said, the touch screen itself, and it should be quite quick, but I will cover all that in my review. So something that you may or may not need, depending on which car. If your car came with navigation, you won't need this, but what this is a relocation bracket for the HVAC unit. And there's a few out there that you can get. This one is just off Amazon. In particular, it has a USB port that can connect to the back of the head unit, and also this kind of splices off of the cigarette port, 12 volts, so you can charge your phone as well with another USB cable. And then it comes with the instructions on that. But why this is important is because when you move, like in my car in particular, I don't have the navigation, so I need to move my AC controls down, and it'll actually fit within here pretty well. And what that'll do is just give it a nice fitment, keep everything together, and at the same time it'll allow some USB compatibility. And what I'm planning on doing in the future, it actually has this blank piece here. I'm actually going to possibly be wiring a button for a electric fan control. So it kind of, it'll in my particular case, it'll help out quite a bit. But yeah, so you may or may not need this depending on whether or not your car came with navigation. Now to cover some of the accessories that I'll be installing, here we have the dual DVR, so this will actually record the front of the vehicle directly into there's a SD card slot here, so you can put a card within and it'll record the front and the rear if you want. It'll work with the rear view camera that I have here. This is a front park camera. This is also universal, so you could use it with the rear view as well if you'd like. I'm not going to install this today, but what I do have planned is to actually install this underneath the front bumper, and I think I'm going to use it as like a splitter protector, so I'll be able to switch to that camera view in the front bumper to see where the splitter actually ends up once I install splitter and once I actually have to replace my bumper. So that's why I'm going to be holding off on that for now, but I will make another video once I do that to show you the process of that. Here, this is as I said before, the rear view camera with the integrated license plate light. So this will replace your license plate light. It does have 4 LEDs here, LED to light up the license plate. These LEDs will come on if you put the car in reverse, or if you have it hooked up to the DVR, it will stay on to make sure that the image itself is lit up enough, and it's always recording. So there's a couple different ways you could do that. And finally, I have this, which I'm super excited about. This is the Apple CarPlay adapter. So there's two. There's a white and a black version. White is wired. This is wireless. So I'm very excited for this. It does have a USB port on the back here, as you can see. So I plan on wiring the USB port from the relocation bracket into here. So I'll see how that goes. It should work fine. If I do have any issues, I'll be sure to document that as well. And finally, just awesome packaging. I mean, really, Avin kills it with packaging. It's really cool. But this is a really awesome envelope for some screen protectors. So that will help out protect the screen. You know, just from day-to-day use. Now that you do have, you know, as everyone knows with the phone, you know, things can get scratched up pretty easily. And then finally, they include a user manual also with the head unit. So this kind of walks through all the features and how to change certain settings on the head unit itself. I will walk through everything that I did with my particular unit in my review. So stay tuned to that. And I'll kind of just go through my experience in that video also. But today is just going to be purely the install. And yeah, let's get to it. First, I want to go over kind of why I decided to go with the head unit. As you can see, this is my current setup. This is the factory radio system with a CD player, and then it has two storage bins here. But in order to get Bluetooth audio, I actually resorted to getting an Amazon Echo Auto, I think it's called. And I actually have to run one cable down into the glove box, which is where the factory aux port is, and then another one that has to go to this USB to 12-volt cigarette adapter here. And then in order to get power to my phone, then I have to run a cable from that thing all the way up, and then I run it to this RAM mount, suction mount that I have here to hold my phone while I drive. So it's really not the most seamless thing. It works, but it's definitely not as convenient, and I don't really like the appearance of having all these wires and this unit here. So the Avin unit is really gonna clean up this whole mess. And like I said, this is gonna shift down into this area here. And then I will have two USB ports down here as well. So that way it'll be, you know, more convenient to plug in. If somebody else has to plug in, I can have my phone and their phone in. And then I still have the use of the cigarette lighter as well. So yeah, that's kind of the overview of where I'm coming from. And then yeah, we're gonna get to it and get this install underway. All right, so I have a guest here.
What's up, everyone?
M3 Black Shadow. He's kind of the expert on installing head units into M3s.
Done like 5 of them, I think.
So I figured I'd get the expert to help me out with this install. We're gonna kind of go through the process of installing the head unit, walk you through kind of the little tips and tricks that Corey's learned throughout his experience installing these head units. And yeah, we'll make sure you get all the information you need so you can follow it along while you install your own. And let's get started.
Let's get started.
Okay, so the first part of this install, we're going to first remove all of my previous stuff. So the Amazon I'll unplug. The biggest part is you need to remove this trim piece here because we're going to start installing the relocation bracket for this HVAC unit. So what we got to do is remove this. We're going to use a plastic pry tool. Always have these. Just reduces any kind of wear that might happen on any of the parts. Then once we get there, it'll reveal some screws that we can take out. This should pop out, and I'll walk you through that once I get to this point. So let me take this off first. Okay, so next part that we're going to have to do is remove these two Phillips head screws, and then this radio should come straight out. So after removing 4 screws, we did one here, one here, one here, and one up there. Other Phillips heads. You have to pull out the fan assembly, and then you can also pull out the radio as well. It's kind of hanging here by the connections. This just pulls, it takes a lot of force. You just go up from underneath it. Some people disconnect this cable here, but others, most of the time, you can just leave it up here. And you shouldn't have a problem to do the rest of the work. So next I'm going to undo all the connections for the radio, and then we'll start working our way down to pop everything out to get to the relocation bracket. Okay, so I got the stock radio out. There's two connections. There's one here for the antenna, and then there's the main connector. Be sure you pull really hard up, but make sure you pull straight up. First I thought it was all the way, but it wouldn't come out. But as soon as you pull all the way up, it'll actually come off of the unit, and then the unit will come out. So next we're going to remove the HVAC part of it, and then we're also going to remove the cubby, which just pulls straight out, both of them. And then there's going to be 2 screws that we have to take out, but I'll get to that when we get there. So as you can see, there's 2 metal tines here, some springs that you just have to pull from each side and it'll come straight out. Next, we just have to disconnect all the connections here. So I have the HVAC unit out, pretty easy, just disconnect. Now what I'm going to do is take off the shift boot so I can get underneath the control here. What you do is you're going to want to pinch the sides because there's some clips under here and it'll pull out. And then there's going to be 4 screws or some screws under here. Once we get that, we can start working out the current bracket. Okay, so after just pinching here, you can see there's 2 tabs on each side. Just pinch like this and then pull one of them out if you want, and then it'll come out, and then you can slide the other side out. It's going to expose 2 Phillips head screws here and here, so it's easy enough. Just unscrew them, make sure you don't drop them, and once those are out, you can start to remove this panel here. It just comes right out, and then we're going to start making our way up to the bracket again. Okay, so I have the trim, shifter trim out. What you have to do is disconnect these 2 window controllers. So it's just you just got to pinch on the back side here. There's one, just pinch and remove it. On the other side, it's flatter, so you just pinch the sides and pull it out. It's really easy. Then what it's going to do is expose more Phillips heads. So one there and one on this side. So we're going to remove that, and then this bracket should come out. I removed the Phillips heads here. This whole bracket is now loose. However, there's 2 more. They're hidden up here. So you can see there are 2 Phillips heads. Once I get those out, then this whole OEM bracket should come straight out. I have the OEM cigarette lighter, ashtray, and then all of the buttons out. You can see there's a few connectors you have to pull out. So the larger one that controls the buttons. There's a one on top of that if you can see it there. And then there's a few connectors for the cigarette outlet, so the 12 volt. So there's 3 connectors down there that you can see on the center of the screen. So once you can disconnect those, the whole bracket comes out. I'll show you now. So the whole piece comes out. Next, we're going to start to replace with the relocation bracket. We're going to put the cigarette port into the new one, and then replace the or I should say install the buttons for the seat heating, DSC, all that stuff into the new bracket. Okay, so some things we have to transfer over to the new unit, which is right here. You can see. We're going to have to transfer over the socket for the 12 volt, and there are 2 little black clips that hold it in, so you just have to push those out with a pick. A metal pick would be the best tool, I think, to get that done. And then we also have to remove the buttons on top, and that should just slide right in to the new one. Okay, so I have the cigarette port in and the button control side. In the back, you'll see there's some Torx bits that just hold the buttons down. It's really easy. And then it's kind of a pain to get the cigarette port out of the original. So what you do is you actually use a pick tool, which I found to be best. You push down one side. One side it has like a thinner, I guess, piece right here, and you push, and then you also move the cigarette port down towards that, and then pull out through the front. And then when you install this one, it had a bit of a fitment thing, so I used a really thin screwdriver to push from the back end, and then I just pushed it in, and now it holds tight. So just a couple tips and tricks on that, but I think it's ready to go in. One thing with this particular bracket is it comes with these 2 wires. One splices into the 12 volt for the cigarette plug, and the other is for that USB connection that I talked about earlier. So there's a diagram. It's really easy to follow, pretty self-explanatory when you're in the car as well. So this just plugs in as you just follow along, and it should go straight in, no problems. You just follow the diagram to do the wiring. One thing I noticed is I had to actually cut off for the positive line. It's over here, you see it. I had to shrink wrap it over it and cut the protector on the actual connection, and then I plugged it into the OEM connector and then shrink wrapped over it. So now it's a perfect sealed connection, so there shouldn't be any issues. You can see here it's a red wire. Yeah, so now we're all good. I tested it out. Everything works for the USB port. for the charging, and then also the 12 volts. So now I just have to connect up the, make the connections for the buttons on top and put everything back together. As you can see, the relocation bracket is in. Kind of fits like factory. Fitment's pretty good. Actually really good. The unit just kind of pops right in, and then put all the screws in just like normal. Attach all the connections. You can't really mess up. They're all unique to each point, so it's not bad. Make sure that you run, if you're going to do what I do, run the USB up before you install it all in. That way you can just directly plug this in when we get the head unit. Okay, so Corey's going to walk through the rear view camera install and kind of guide us through what steps are needed in order to get a clean install.
Okay, so first what we're going to do is we need to pull this lining, all the lining off, because we have to run the wires from the head unit all the way through the back of the car. We're going to have, RJ has folding seats, so we're going to have to put the seats down, and we're going to have to run the wire underneath the seat and into the trunk for the backup camera. We're actually going to want to run it along the passenger side US and get it up through this grommet and then in here. We're also going to have to take all this apart as well so that we can replace the license plate light with the rear view camera. So to do that, it's pretty easy. You'll see there are these little gray tabs right here. You need plastic pry tools. You could probably use metal for this, to be honest. You just want to be careful not to break anything. You just slip underneath it. I'm just going to go this one. You see, and then if you come in here from the angle, you'll see there's kind of two pieces to it. So when you pull it, there's this piece and then there's this piece. When this goes in, it expands these pieces of plastic to hold it in place. So once you pry, be careful not to pry under here while it's down, or you'll actually break the plastic. So that's all you got to do, and these little things are everywhere. So you just got to pull these out, and then after you get that, you're going to need to remove the toolkit. To remove the toolkit, this got me the first time. There are little hidden Phillips head screws in here that are like kind of felt on the top, so they blend in really nicely. But if you look, you can see the Phillips are there. You unscrew here, you unscrew here. This comes out really easily. You just turn it sideways, and then you lift and pull it straight out. Additionally, you have the emergency release. You pop that like that, and then it's best if you use a flathead in here. Just kind of get a thin flathead, and you pry up, and you'll be able, I was able to do it with my hands. There you go. And be careful when you're reinstalling it, because this needs to come through the hole so that you'll be able to get it back on here. Other than that, to get to the rest of this, if you come around here, you'll see we have to remove this assembly. We have to remove this. I have a convertible, so mine's a little bit different, but you have 2 rivets here. That's the same. So you're going to pull this out, and then the whole trunk lining you need to pull back so that you have access to run the wires behind. Okay, so now the whole trunk is apart. You can see we removed the liner. This is where the reverse lights are. We also pulled this back. To get the light out here, you just pull straight out. Also, there's a little gas tank, gas cap release or gas tank release here. And you just kind of get your fingers in there and you pop it off, and then you'll be able to pull it away. From there, you need to remove this whole piece. To do that, you have a little T. What are these? It's probably a. I can't read it. I'm not even sure. But it's a little Torx piece that goes in there like that. So there's 4 of them. One there, one there, one there, and one there. This part you have to be really careful with, because if you're not, when this plastic is connected by wires, and so it's not just going to fall off. And what will happen is, if you're not careful, you can scratch the paint. So we're going to be really careful. We're going to remove these, and we're going to pull it straight out so that we don't actually disconnect anything. Also, don't forget that the trunk release is here as well. So a lot of electronics run into this little piece.
And Corey, I think since this is a coupe model, the convertible, does it have one behind here as well?
Yep, that's a really good point. So mine is a convertible. On the convertible, there's you have to actually pull the BMW roundel off, and then there's another Torx bit behind that as well. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna need to do is pull this cover off. To do that, it's actually pretty, sometimes it can be a big pain in the butt. This one was actually pretty easy. You just take the flathead, there's a little divot in there, okay? And you be really careful, apply pressure, and you see that springing motion? So you apply a lot of pressure, okay? Sometimes it takes quite a bit of force, and then you pull straight down, and then the whole thing will just pop out like that.
And there you have the license plate.
And that's where you have the license plate light. Okay, so we're in the back here. To get this off, you need to use something like this, like a little pick. And basically, you just need to, it's gonna be seated in here really tight. So you can kind of see this little tab right here. You have to kind of get underneath and pry up, and then eventually the whole thing will come out. I removed this rear piece here. It was quite tricky. It's a bit different than both my cars. I have an M5 and an M3 convertible. But to get this off, there's actually this painted piece that goes on here. And it's easier to do this off the car. I just didn't realize how to get it off. So what you do is there's a little connector in here. You'll see if you put the trunk back, you'll notice there's this little plastic piece. And if you come in here, you'll see it kind of sits in like that. And it actually blocks you from being able to pull the wire out from back. And I was struggling trying to pull it off until I realized that this was blocking it. So I just popped this off. And then right in here, you'll see there's a connector. This thing looks something like that. And then the connector's there. So you just pop this off, and then you can remove the whole assembly. The wire will come right out. And then from here, you're in a better position to remove the plastic. The way that you remove the painted piece is there are these little, you'll see there are these little like holes here, and they correspond to little holes on the back, or little tabs right here and here and here. You can kind of see it. It's focusing there. There you go. These little tabs. So you have to be really careful and pry over, and then the whole piece will come off. And then from there, that's really important because the lip on the painted trim piece covers this backing plate. From there, what you're gonna wanna do is take a screwdriver or like a razor blade, and there's some glue in here, and we're gonna need to pry this back and remove this whole piece from the back. To get this off, there's basically glue that goes all the way around here. So you kind of have to just tear it off, or use a heat gun, or use like a utility knife or something to get this off. But once it's pulled back, you'll be able to see all of the wires exposed and everything. Also, there are two small screws on the back here that you need to remove. From here, what we're gonna do is test fit the backup cam. So here's the backup cam. And you need to shave down some of this. You definitely need a Dremel for this. You can do it without a Dremel. You can use it with, do it like a regular knife or something, even like a serrated kitchen knife. I did that the very first time. It takes a really long time to do it that way, obviously, so a Dremel definitely gets it done better. But basically what you're gonna do is test fit, and what ends up happening is this ridge right here ends up getting blocked by the top here. So you'll see when you go to put it in, it just doesn't fit right. It gets blocked. Okay, so you basically just want to shave some off, put it back, see if it fits, shave some off again, put it back, see if it fits, and you just keep doing that until you get it seated properly. We put the reverse camera, we've wired it in through here. And after pulling all of this apart, what we did was we just fed the wires through here, and we soldered and heat shinked the wires up to matching. So you have the two gray wires, and then you have the brown wire. So the two gray wires go together, and then the brown wire goes together. Brown is ground, so the brown is wired to the black, and the gray is wired to the red. From there, what we do is we just take the black wire. This is the feed to the camera. The red and black wire are the feed to the LEDs. Black wire goes for the camera, and there's a little hole right under there. So we fed it through, and then this metal piece actually slides off, so you can pull it off and then put the black wire behind it and then push this back. And this metal piece basically, you hear the clicks, this is for the trunk opener. And then you just feed that black wire up through the grommet and then out the back. So now what we're gonna do is use silicone to put this back in place and get it nice and sealed watertight. All right, we were able to get the reverse camera in the housing. It wasn't easy to get everything back on. You really have to stretch the painted trim piece over top of the mechanism, but you'll probably chip a little plastic here and there, but once you get it all in and you get the silicone in there, it'll all be watertight, and then all of this seals up against the trunk so you don't see anything. And then for the reverse camera itself, I just used some double-sided tape. I think I bought this on Amazon. And yeah, and then you just use a heat gun to get it really nice and sticky and tacky, and then you place it in there, and we should be good to go. So from here, what we're gonna do is feed this wire and this wire through that hole, and then into the trunk. And from here, we'll be able to run the wiring through the tubing and into the car. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we have the backup camera installed here, and now we have the video feed coming out the back, okay? So what we're gonna need to do is run this video feed up to the front of the car, but in order for this to work, so there are two ways that you can set this up. You can set it up so that it's dual facing DVR, which means that the back camera is always recording, or you could set it up so it only comes on when the reverse camera is on. When the car is in reverse. RJ wants to set it up so that it's only on in reverse, because if you have the DVR on all the time and the rear facing camera on all the time, this is connected to these LEDs, and so these 4 LEDs are on all the time. So just be mindful of, if you're gonna wire it up that way, you're gonna have 4 LEDs on. You can probably put some like little black paint over it or something, or there might be like one of these 4 pins you could probably go in here and disconnect somehow, but we're not going to mess with that today. So what we're going to do is actually have to run, so you have this connector with a black and red wire. The red and the black need to be tapped into the reverse light. Brown is ground, so we're going to take the black and we're going to connect it, we're going to tap it in here, and we're going to take the red and we're going to connect it in here, and then we'll solder it and tape it up so that nothing touches. Then we have this connector, okay, and we're gonna wire it like this. So here's the other side. It goes in like that, only goes in one way, okay? And then, so this is gonna be like this. And then this is going to go in here, okay? And then this is going to go into the reverse light like that, okay? And then this has to be fed all the way to the front of the car. And to do that, we have to take this connector right here and feed it through this tube, which is honestly maybe the hardest part about the whole thing. A little trick that I found is that you just take a zip tie and you can tie the zip tie around it, and then you feed the zip tie through and you can pull it through that way. So we'll try that, and I'll report back and let you know how it goes. All right, we got the wiring all hooked up here. So here's the red and black wire tapped into the reverse light, and then it is wired here and connected to the red connector. Now it's important that you want to take a little electrical tape and tape this up, because over time they can get loose, so it's nice and tight. Same thing with the video connector here, so that's taped up. And then same thing with the direct connection to the camera. So that's all set up as well. And then what we did is we used a zip tie on the other end of this cord to feed it through here. The trick is zip tie and then find like a little bit of lube. Lube is always the key. It'll slide right through, and then we use this wire to actually feed that wire up and over and out here. So everything's all connected back here. We just have to run this wire all the way through the front and into the head unit.
Okay, so we had to rip out the back seat. All we had to do is just pull up, and then these clips are here. That's what hold it down. So just pull up really hard on both sides, and seat should just lift right out. You do have to finagle a little bit, so lift one side up and then pull out, and then it'll rotate it, and then you can remove the whole seat. After that, we're gonna start working on getting the rear camera wire fed through. We pulled the side trim piece up. You just pull up. Some people slide it, but you can just pull up, and it should all just come out. Okay, so Corey is currently leading the rear view camera wire through the back. What we did is we had to remove the side carpet, and the thing we got hung up on is there's a clip back here, right there by his hands.
This one.
Yep, and it was holding it, so you have to make sure that you pull it just right to get the carpet exposed. Then we ran the wire down through here, and we're following the main power line. We're going to snake it through the seats and then down the side and up to the head unit. One other step you'll have to do is remove the glove box. So you can see under here, there's going to be a couple screws back here. I don't know if you can see that. Back there's 4 screws. You'll pop those all out, and then this whole thing will drop down. Okay, so the next step is picking the proper cable for the head unit. So you can look at the main connector here, and you can see the pin layout. The head unit, the Avant 4, will come with 2 different main connectors. So this is one, and you have to look at the pin layout. So this is what one layout would look like. And it depends if your car had navigation from the factory or not. And then as you can see, this is the one that I'll be using. It matches with my OE setup. So I'm going to be using this particular adapter. And then everything is nicely labeled, so it's easy to connect it all up properly with the backup cam, reverse, power, iBus. Let's see, all the goodies. So everything's properly labeled, so make the easy install, and we'll get to it. Okay, so Corey just installed the front DVR camera.
So we basically ran the wiring up through here and then came out right here, and we were able to get them in these plastic clips and snap them in place. You have to be very careful not to block the airbag, so we were able to feed the wire behind the airbag through here, and then you have to pull this rubber molding out. So you pull, and then there's a gap, and you can run the wire up through the gap, and then right here behind, and then just zip tie it to the ECU wires, and then you can run it up along here, and then come out through where the head unit will be.
Yep. Okay, so we just got done installing the Wi-Fi and the GPS adapters. So you can see I put the Wi-Fi underneath the bar right there.
Right there.
Yep, it's a flat black adapter. And the GPS, we snanked it all the way up into underneath the cluster.
It's right up in there. You can see it.
So, little black box.
Yep, and then we also we have the USB for the DVR, which is right here. We have the backup camera wire, right. Sorry, that's not the backup camera, that's like the Wi-Fi or the GPS. And then the backup camera wire is right here, all fed up through underneath the glove box, through here. So we have all the wires we need right in place. So now it's time to
plug and play.
Plug and see if everything works.
So now we're going to install all the connections to the back of the head unit.
So I'm just going to play around with it because I actually don't know off the top of my head, but the connectors only fit in one way. And you can see on the connector there's a little line there. So you can actually just look and see there's a line on that one. So most likely it's gonna fit right in there. Yep, just like that. Okay.
There we go.
Do it until you hear a click. It's a good idea to just plug everything in and test it from here.
Yep.
So
we're gonna test out all the camera feeds and everything. Everything is nicely labeled, so Avin does a good job of making sure that, you know, try to make it as simple as possible. So this is the first boot up. Test everything out. First, yeah, this should take the longest.
it's up to you. That's the CarPlay.
Oh,
Do you want it to be?
we can change that, I imagine.
All right.
Cool.
So now put it in reverse. Allow autoplay.
All right, so. Perfect. So
That's good.
this looks good. Sweet.
There you go. It's facing the ceiling,
Thank
so that's fine. The trunk is
Fantastic.
up.
Trunk is up.
All right.
Good. Now we just have to stuff it all in.
Oh
the-
wait, so we don't need all this. So some
Yeah.
of these.
So make sure whatever you order, you know, you don't need all of the cables.
We don't need that one.
So you can eliminate a lot of wires that you don't need. But even I have 2 cameras right now. I'll have 3, but I don't think I'll need any of the other wires. So great. Now we just gotta button it up and I'll be back. Well, that's it. It's all in. Everything works perfectly, looks great. The cameras work just fine. You do have to download a specific app for the front camera, or the DVR camera, that's located in the Avin support page. So really easy, just download it from the website on the unit itself. Comes up just fine. And if I go to reverse, you'll see that the review camera comes in right away. It's really awesome. Boot up time is super quick, really fast when you start the car. It's quite amazing. The USB port works just fine. I plugged this into the autoplay CarPlay adapter, so when I plug my phone in, it automatically boots up CarPlay. Works flawlessly. Fit and finish on the bracket itself is fantastic. The charge port works just fine. Charges your phone really quick. After some time with the head unit, I'll make another video so I can go over kind of the features and the changes that I make to the system here, kind of what I found to be really helpful, and show you my experience of using it. I'm really excited for that. Please stay tuned for that, and yeah, I'll see you next time.